look at the Standard newspaper, the front page, page 4 and 5 as well, to guide the next discourse. And it would be largely about something that, we heard about. And some Kenyans raised concern as to the same. But of course, not much happened at that particular time. But slowly by slowly, we are getting to a worrying space, and they talk about the ID scandal, where there's been an arrest of 26 suspects in a fast-growing citizenship for sale racket. And of course, has added fresh urgency to concerns that President Ruto's decision to scrap security vetting for ID applicants in northern Kenya and other border counties has opened a dangerous loophole. The critics who warned the decree would be exploited now feel vindicated as racketeers, rogue clerks and middlemen collude to dish out Kenyan nationality at a fee. Investigators say Northeastern has emerged as one of the biggest beneficiaries of the fraud, with criminal networks exploiting the relaxed rules to slip foreigners through the system and undermine national security. I read that so that it can set the pace for this conversation. Wakili Nyamuri, trouble in the making?
I think we have two issues to deal with here. One is to deal with the issue with the integrity of the process of issuing identity cards.
Right.
But two is the right of every Kenyan, irrespective of religion, irrespective of the skin, irrespective of the tribe or ethnicity, to acquire and benefit from the processes of having an ID.
Right.
The problem is not only in northern Kenya. There is a massive mobilization of, community-led mobilization of people to take IDs in Nyanza. And I almost shed tears when I saw a 79-year-old woman in Nyatike. And Nyatike is a border constituency, who had never taken an ID. So it means she has lived through her life without benefiting from the opportunities that a national ID can provide, okay? That same story is in Garissa. The same story will be found amongst the minority community living in Nairobi. So one, we must assure them that we will not second guess their right to acquire IDs, and that we will not subject them to processes that are worse than what the rest of us go through. Okay, I got a national ID in Form 4 through mass registration in schools. It should happen everywhere. Second thing is that we need to build the system to be strong enough so that it is not abused, okay? Because there will always be somebody trying to beat the system, okay? So that should be the second issue, and it's critical for national security, but it's also critical to ensure that only citizens, benefit from the system. What I am against is the blanket move that we should subject the citizens of northern Kenya, what was then called the northern frontier, to discrimination that they have faced over the years.
Right.
And you see, when the president went to Northeastern and declared that they will not be subjected to processes that are worse than the processes that the rest of Kenyans go through, what he was just doing is to affirm citizenship.
How can you not read politics in this? And perhaps I come to Wakili. Because then this is the statement that he makes. Nasikia wananitishia na mambo ya one term. Mimi nimekuwa mjumbe miaka 15, nimekuwa naibu rais na nimekuwa rais. Watanishinda aje? Leo nimesema hiyo vetting imekwisha. Hakuna kuendelea kuonea watu wengine. Hii ubaguzi imedumu miaka 60. Tulisema tutatoa. Hii itawapelekea ndugu zetu katika mikoa hii kujisikia sawa na wengine Kenya nzima. When you read the statement,
the president is a politician.
Yes.
The president is a politician.
Okay.
You see, we will be pretending anytime we want to discuss the president and not assume that he's a politician.
Okay.
And he made certain. You're going to respond. You're going to respond. He made certain commitments to the people of the northeastern part of the country when he was campaigning, that I will revoke this requirement that you have to go through a process that other Kenyans don't go through. If there is a security process that is necessary for acquisition of IDs, I need to go through it. Wakili Kinyanjui needs to go through it. But we cannot subject a Somali Kenyan to a process that we do not go through.
But don't you think then it befits the president to ensure that even as he relaxes these regulations, that he ensures that there is strict adherence?
So what we should be talking about, is not that the president has said that they will not go through, a security process.
Okay.
What we should be asking is that, are we all going through a proper security process?
If we think
what is happening in northeastern is necessary.
Right.
It should happen in my village of Nyamware.
That is true.
It should happen. I'm not sure where Wakili Kinyanjui come from, but if he comes from Kiambu, it should happen in Kiambu. So that each and every Kenyan must go through the same process. But we cannot subject other Kenyans to different processes.
Let me allow Wakili come in. Would it have been better then for them to look into the security concerns that would come to out of this, and perhaps make sure that they tighten corners where there could be integrity issues before the issuance of this declaration, and that then, well, of course, it would be rightful for all Kenyans to get their IDs without having to struggle, which is a democratic right. And just ensure that it's a correct process, because when it comes to this level, and at that particular time, critics actually came out to question this. Would it not have been proper for the government to have made sure that they seal all the loopholes before this declaration, and that then it becomes a smooth process? Because when you see these concerns, and they're talking about 1 million is the fee that is being paid, or price, for Somalis and other foreigners are paying to acquire Kenyan citizen documents such as IDs, passports, and birth certificates. It's lucrative, I see.
It was an act of political desperation for someone whose arithmetic cannot add up for him in terms of a 2027 presidential election. So he needed that. And by what fiat would he have, would he possess, in law or otherwise, as a president, to change the demands of the law in terms of the Registration of Persons Act? If you read Section 8, subsection 1 of that act, the Registration of Persons Act, Cap 107, it demands of everybody. The registering officer is supposed to ask you, please, I need to verify A, B, and C, and D about you. There's nothing exceptional there. So then he comes and says that that law should not apply. Is he Parliament?
It should have been done in Parliament.
Excuse me.
Okay.
He cannot have the power to issue a presidential proclamation for the suspension, acquisition of IDs by a class of people. Article 95, sub-article 4 of the Constitution clearly says, the power to make laws is vested in Parliament. No one has the power to issue a declaration, an utterance, or do anything that has a force of the law without taking it to Parliament. So we have a dictatorship that is so desperate to cling on to power, and they do not see the prospect of a fair and a just election if everything is allowed to go within the province of the law. And so you find these sort of justifications coming from a learned friend in a manner which you get to wonder. I mean, don't we have a reference to the law where if anybody is discriminated against in terms of registration, they can always then fall back to the protection of the law. That's what Article 27(1) of the Constitution tells you, that if you do get discriminated in terms of Article 27(4) of the Constitution, then invoke the process of the law.
Right.
But now we are seeing, as indeed you have rightly pointed out, that there is a scandal. Now, what does this speak of those processes of registering people where someone is forking out money in order to, quote unquote, acquire Kenyan citizenship.
Okay.
The acquisition of citizenship is governed by law. So what is so difficult about them following the law? But let me say this. There were those utterances by some politicians, I'm not going to name them, but they were, you know, applauding him, and some actually quoted in that newspaper article saying that, you know, for the first time they feel like Kenyans, you know, and because he has opened this gate and everybody can, you know, have this cross-border sort of registration. So we have then to ask ourselves, what is the end game in this?
In this, okay.